Now, speaking of that, we have to talk about where do we go from here, which is our next point. Marvel has already teased some upcoming films. Obviously, Spider-Man is going to be coming out, I think, in about 2 months, maybe 3 months. I think it's slated for July. So they had to do something to get that back on track. They also just had one of their biggest successes of any Marvel film, which was kind of an unexpected success in a lot of ways. I don't think anybody saw Black Panther, just how well received that film was going to be. And that actually grossed, that's one of the highest grossing Marvel films that they did. Obviously, they're going to make a sequel to that movie, but then they kill off Black Panther in the last Infinity War movie. So with the undoing of the snap, they bring back Spider-Man, they bring back Black Panther, so that kind of resets things for those movies. What it doesn't do is it complicates the Black Widow film that I know has been announced. They've already talked about how they want to work with Scarlett Johansson on some kind of Black Widow project. Now, being that it's comic book movies and that nobody's really dead for long, you can always write them out of death if you had to. It wouldn't be a big deal. They did it with Coulson. The character Coulson, who dies in, I think, the first Avengers film, but then shows back up on the Shield TV show, and they just kind of they explain that away. They have a little explanation about how they bring him back from the dead, but it's really not. It's no big thing to write that away. So they could easily bring Black Widow back somehow if they really wanted to, or maybe they could deal with alternate timelines or whatever the case may be. Or maybe have they decided to shelve the Black Widow project? I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what stage in development it's actually in currently. But we'll see. We'll see if the Black Widow film or TV show or whatever it is, whatever they were working on, we'll see if that actually happens. Now, it would be interesting to see if maybe that was kind of a sly way of them kind of shelving that project because they have too much on their plate and they figure that a standalone Black Widow movie probably wouldn't be something that's going to do terribly well at the box office. I'm a fan of the character, but I don't know that I need to see her in her own film. But we'll see. I don't know. The other thing, though, is the Loki, I believe it's TV series that has just been announced for the streaming service that's coming up. Now, obviously, they announced that after Infinity War, where it seemed that Loki was very dead. And they went out of their way to show you that this is not, he's not being a trickster. This is nothing. I know a lot of fan theories talked about how it wasn't really, it was maybe a projection of Loki or he faked his death and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was pretty obvious to me that after so many fake deaths in the past, he was legit gone at the end of that, or at the beginning of the last film. And so when they announced that, you wonder, well, how they're going to do that. Well, in the film here, you see that because of the time travel elements, they kind of screw up some things about the timeline, so things aren't quite synced up with the events that we remember. For instance, they go back into the first Avengers film, which was spoiled for me actually last year when I saw Infinity War, because I had seen the behind-the-scenes photos of the new characters in the original film's location. So instantly I thought, well, okay, they have to do something with time travel or something if they're going back and talking to their original characters. But what they do is when they go back into the first film, and it's right as Loki is actually captured, Captain America and Tony Stark completely screw up the timeline. And now, instead of being captured by the end of the first Avengers film, Loki actually grabs the Tesseract and escapes. And so he's just gone. And that, I assume, is how they got out of the whole killing him in the last film. So probably, if I had to guess, the new film is going to deal with that version of Loki, or that timeline's version of Loki, where he's now off on his own again, doing his own thing, probably using the Tesseract to hop around the galaxy and do whatever he needs to do. So that's probably, I assume, specifically the reason they wrote that scene in. And it's kind of just a throwaway scene. It leads to something else where it pushes the plot forward with specifically Tony and Steve Rogers, who then have to go back in time, and it's to the 70s. They have to meet up with a version of Tony Stark's dad and a young version of Michael Douglas as the original Ant-Man, if you can believe it. That's how crazy this film is. That everything you could think that to throw as a comic book fan into this version of, this mishmashed versions of what if and this character and that character and different versions of characters, it's all in there. I mean, this was a love letter to Marvel fans and comic book fans. So it was really cool how they did that. And the other thing is, what do you do with the Thor character? Because he's kind of ran his course. There's not much left for him to do. So last we see him, he hooks up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's this fun sequence between him and Quill at the end, and they're trying to figure out who's the actual leader now and the captain of the ship. And he actually calls them the Asgardians of the Galaxy. So was that just a funny little throwaway thing, or are we going to see a new Guardians movie, maybe as Thor as a secondary character or as a guest character? I assume they'll do another Guardians film. I can't imagine they're done with that. They did two. I think a lot of people actually say that they like the second Guardians film a little bit better than the first one. I don't know. I think I might like the first one better personally, but I think they probably have one more Guardians of the Galaxy film in there somewhere. And I think now Quill, if I'm remembering the timeline right, I don't know if I'm getting all of the big event. I'm covering the big stuff, but there might be a few little things here and there that I'm forgetting. Like I said, I'm fresh off of the film. Literally walked out of the theater straight home. I didn't walk home. I mean, I walked straight in here when I got home to do the stream. I should have walked home. It would have gave me time to collect my thoughts because there's just so much going on. I wish you could see my desk right now. I have so many Post-its with notes and things of all the points I wanted to cover. It's just crazy. But yeah, there's a lot going on with it, and it'll be funny to see how they kind of tie all that up. And again, the other thing about these the points that we're making here, like I said, I want this to be kind of a reveal video of the top 10 things that I thought were interesting. This is by no means an Easter egg reveal video. There's probably so many little small tidbits and things that I'm sure I overlooked that I'll have to catch when I go back to see it. I might see it again in the theater, I'm not sure, but I'm sure I'll see it a bunch of times when it hits streaming and on demand. But it'll be interesting to see, do they do another Guardians film, and if they do, what do they do with the Thor character?